to everybody out there. My family is not a huge military family, but my dad was an instructor in the Air Force. Both my grandparents were in the Air Force. My uncle was in the Navy. So thank you to everybody else out there. And so we'll kind of get into it, look at the markets, see what's going on. I do have a fair amount to say about that. I had a 2-hour live trading session yesterday with the Moxy group, the Moxy subscribers. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can come over here to profitpilot.com. Specifically, you can go to services, and that is where you can then find out more information about the Moxy Mastery, which is my trade alert group, and then the Moxy Stock Method, which is the class that I teach along with the Moxy Indicator and the scanner and all that kind of stuff. And then I was on a road trip, so I had one of these stock blogs that I put out, newsletters, and I thought this one was actually pretty good considering what was going on with the election and then vaccine news and stuff. And it was funny to look back and to say, oh, that was actually quite appropriate to be posting for the day. So go ahead and read this, basically saying that, I know that there were a lot of moves happening in the last week or so, given how the stuff was going. But man, I tell you, I was happy to be on the road and not trading anything because the market, you just had a lot of things. You had the election, and then we got the surprise vaccine news and all that kind of stuff. And while there were good moves, the vaccine news actually killed a lot of names. I mean, we're looking at Zoom and Peloton and some of these other stuff. And I was even looking at, Beyond Meat, but they had earnings and some other names. It's like, I wouldn't have thought that vaccine news would have damaged this particular name or that particular name. So honestly, I'm pretty happy that I was in cash, given the crazy events with the election and then the vaccine stuff. So weird kind of reactions out there from that vaccine. One thing I did also tell my subscribers, and this isn't political, but we do need to understand that the election is not finalized yet. I know that the media has done their projections, and that they are calling the Biden president-elect. Fine, so be it. I'm just saying that there could be a surprise. If anybody remembers back when Bush and Gore, that thing, I think there was about a month until they finally decided on something, and then Bush was president. So I just from a market standpoint, still we need to understand that there is still a possibility and that there could be some news and there could be some news disruptions, and we need to just be aware of that from a market standpoint. As far as the S&P going forward, I'll show you the couple various indices because I do see quite a lot of differences between them, and some of those differences is what I thought that the market was going to be doing. So if you look here going into the weekend, that was Friday right here, and you can see that the S&P was at its previous all-time high, kind of like a triple top area, basically just resistance. And what I was looking for is price to actually fall off of the 15-minute 50 and come back down and somewhat test the hourly 50. And that would have been fantastic. I would have absolutely loved that, and that would have given me the move that I wanted. Instead, what we got was vaccine news, and we got a big gap up on Monday. Again, I was on the road. There's no way I could have taken anything like this. The only way that you could benefit from this is if you were already in. And what you can see here is that price was outside of the third ATR. So remember, I love my ATRs. Anytime you get up there, they tend to come back. And so I've just been waiting. We put on a couple things because I do see, I am generally bullish the market, but I'm still waiting for price to get closer to the hourly 50. And usually what I see, and this is why I have this marked, usually what I see is I'm kind of wondering how price is going to deal with this 15-minute 50. It's starting to run into the underside of a now downtrending 15-minute 50. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a hard rejection. It could always be surprised. Otherwise, maybe it's going to do some sideways stuff, but I'm still just kind of wondering about this gap between price and the hourly 50. So I'm a little bit cautious about that. Then if we look at the Qs, they are, dare I say, the weakest of the bunch, but they did what I was expecting the SPY to do. And what I mean by that is here. you see that there's that triple top area that I was talking about for the SPY, and you see that there was a big gap between price and the hourly 50. Well, the Qs did do what I thought the SPY was going to do, meaning that they fell off of the 15-minute 50, and where'd they go? Right down to the hourly 50. Now, the SPY didn't do that. Part of the reason is because of the vaccine news. Since the SPY kind of encapsulates some of the names that are in the IWM and some of the names that are in the Qs, well, the SPY went up because the IWM went up. The Qs, the NASDAQ, are all tech, and tech got hammered because of the vaccine news. So be it. Now what I'm looking at is we need to see at some point if price is kind of going to hold this area. And then the other thing I was cautioning, same thing with the SPY, is notice that the Qs are running right into the underside of a downtrending 15-minute 50. So we need to be aware of that. I'm not quite ready to call this a long, fresh swing long trade yet on the Qs and the market. So I'm going to be holding off just a little bit on that for now. All right. Yep. Hey, Imran. Good to see you over here. And Helen, right now, no, there's not a way to watch this on Simpler Trading. We only this is a public thing, and this is going to be it's on YouTube, it's on Simpler's Facebook if you want to do that, and it's also on my Instagram. And I have my cat trying to sit on my lap, so that's not going to be working right now. All right, and then IWM, if we go over to here, and looking at this, the IWM has responded the most from the vaccine news, but it's up there. I'd really prefer some sort of pullback at some point, or at least more flagging into support. But you can see once again, third ATR, we're still pretty far off of the 8 EMA, and even on the hourly chart, we are still pretty far off of the hourly 50. So I'm curious to see if it's going to come down to that or if it's going to go sideways until that 50 meets it. But you can see that it has been holding up the best here up against the 15-minute time frame. So, I'm still really kind of concerned about this gap right in through there. Then beyond that, we kind of go over to gold. Still nothing quite really happening here. Again, I'm really happy that I just wasn't in the market the last couple days, because for me there was a setup right there. You can see that the Moxy price trigger did fire. That means the Moxy indicator went from negative to positive, and it did test right there the hourly 50. That is a perfect entry setup for me, and you can see it worked. It worked like a charm. Just totally perfect and great. The only thing I could have said was, hey, this is a little extended. Now, I definitely would not have expected price to come all the way down here. Again, that is a news-driven move, and that definitely would have run me over, so I'm very happy that I just missed it. But the entry worked out perfectly, and then what came out next was totally unforeseen. As the only thing I could have said is, hey, this is getting a little bit extended, a little bit overbought, because price was outside of 30 ATR and very far away from the hourly 50. So that was kind of the only thing I could see. Yeah, Helen, good. Glad you got that figured out. But yeah, we have multiple ways for people to get a hold of this and watch it. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, saying hey. Let me know kind of some tickers that you all are looking at and what you're interested in. We went through quite a few in the Moxy group yesterday, and I'll show you some examples of stocks to not trade and how to recognize not to trade them based on Moxy. So Tom, let's take a look at Boeing. This also falls in the category of the vaccine news. So airlines, think about it. I've talked about this so many times in the past as far as the sector rotation, but think about the high-touch, high human density names that are going to need a vaccine in order for them to come back to where they were before. Hotels, casinos, airlines, cruise lines, entertainment, retail, restaurants. Think about those. Those are all the ones that have popped. That is why the IWM popped more than any of the indices. As far as Boeing, yeah, we could have seen some of it coming. Price was here over the hourly 50. It did continue to bounce along the 15-minute 50, but other than that, just a complete news surprise. Now, would I buy it up here? Absolutely not. It is well outside of the third ATR on the daily chart. It is off of the 8 EMA, and it is very far away from the hourly 50. This is good news, but I want to make sure it holds because we have seen this before. Let me show you, say, American Airlines. we have seen this kind of stuff before. If you look at the daily chart, we've seen a big move back here, we saw a little bit move here, and now we're seeing a move again. So is this going to be the time that the vaccine, the names that need a vaccine, is this going to finally hold? And you can even see here on American Airlines, it's pulled all the way back. And this is what I'm talking about. It's pulled all the way back to the hourly 50. Now, that might be the next best entry. That's what I typically like, is when price hits and comes back down to the hourly 50. But we have to figure out if this is actually going to be real. You can see Love, which is Southwest, they've been doing better. They've at least been bouncing along the daily 50 right here, been doing pretty well. Once again, I just don't want to enter up here. I really rather have it enter some sort of pullback, but we're going to have to watch and see which one that is. Maybe even Alaska Airlines, kind of see what it's doing. It's been messier. I tried trading this sector a little bit, but it just hasn't been really clean, and so I've been typically avoiding it. Same thing, you get into the cruise lines, CCL. There were some big moves back in the day, then there were a couple more moves, and now we're at it again. Is this the real one? I don't know. So we just can't quite tell and figure out yet. As I said, I've traded some of these in the past. It hasn't been very clean or smooth, so I've generally moved on from them. And then we can even look at, say, Win. Same kind of deal. Win, MGM, LVS. You can even talk about hotels, which is going to be H or HLT, move in the past, move again. Do I want to enter today? No. I don't want to be entering up here. I do not want to be entering up here. It's not like these things are just going to keep skyrocketing. They're going to come back at some point, and that's, if I'm going to go in, that's what I'd be looking for to go in on. Yeah, no problem, Tom. Glad you enjoyed that. And some of the other names that we've kind of been going through, talking about the, excuse me, some of the electric car space. So NIO, we have been just having a grand old time with this thing. Let's see. We took a move here, and we got 30%. And then we took some off, and we got back in, and then we got up. I think we finally got out of it about 80%. So we had one of our positions go 80%, and then we reloaded, and that last position went about 40%. So we've had a really, really good time with that one. It, too, was starting to get pretty extended, and so that's why I was phasing out of this. What I'm doing is I've been keeping a core position because I do think this thing is going to keep going. I would like to be part of it. I definitely don't want to, just exit completely into cash because I think this thing is just going to keep going at some point. I'd really like to turn a portion of it into an investment. I kind of talk about how would you have I remember when I was trading Amazon back when it was $300 or $350, and I would be thrilled to just keep having some of it all the way up until it's $1,000 or $1,500 mark. I think NIO could be doing the same. I hear people talking about $300 for NIO, and we're only at $41. So it may not be the smoothest ride, and there might be a lot of periods of time to where it just doesn't do anything. But yeah, I'd like to keep hanging on to that, something like that. And Martin, as far as a trampoline move, technically not yet. The trampoline move that I would be looking at was back here. That's where price was really underneath the hourly 50, but the Moxy indicator was still above zero. Right now, I'm viewing this as more of just an actual bounce off of the hourly 50. So just a pure bounce so far. Now, I don't know if this is going to keep holding the hourly 50 and then move up from there, because it's still underneath the 15-minute 50. So we could get some sideways chop. We could also actually get a legitimate trampoline move, which would be if price actually got underneath the hourly 50 and the Moxy indicator is still very much above zero. So I'm in no way, shape, or form looking to completely get out of this thing. If anything, I'm looking to add more at some point. Maybe this is the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of painting too rosy of a picture with this thing and it's going to bite me a little bit. I don't know. But overall, I think it's clearly pretty strong and in a good trend. Lots of volume, and I want to be part of it. Now, just keep in mind that there are earnings coming up. So it's kind of just figuring out where we're going to keep going from here. Some of the other electric vehicle space, we talked about Workhorse. It's still going to take some time. The biggest news back in the day was, hey, are they going to get that contract with the USPS, United States Postal Service, and that was kind of this move right back there. And since that kind of fizzled, so did its stock. Now, it is past earnings. That's good. I like that. It is starting to find some support at the hourly 50, but it's still got a lot of work here that it has to figure out from the daily chart. I'm still kind of waiting for that. It also has to kind of get past the hourly 200. So I'm in no hurry when it comes to Workhorse. I think that there are some other names that should be interesting and of interest. So, and then once again, for people who are just now tuning in, if you guys like what I'm talking about, like how I talk about the charts and how I trade and everything, you can come over here to profitpilot.com, go over to services, and that is where you can then find out more information about the Moxy Mastery, which is where I have my alert service. We've got quite a few people in there, so thank you for all the subscribers. Appreciate you guys supporting me, and hopefully I'm doing a good job for you and you enjoy it. And then over here, the class, which is the Moxy stock method, and this is where you guys can get the indicator, the scanner, all the other things that come with Moxy. And then you can, I think it's a 5-hour class that just basically shows you everything from soup to nuts about how I trade and how this works. In fact, I had somebody just emailed me the other day saying, hey, if I took your Moxy Mastery, which is the alert service, why do I need to take the class? And my answer was, well, because in the Moxy Mastery, I give a lot of education, but I pretty much just send out alerts and you guys follow along. And we do have 2-hour live tradings once a month, which we just had yesterday. But you're going to be getting kind of surface level because I assume everybody's kind of already up to speed on stuff like that. The Moxy class, really, it's 5 hours, gives you everything from the basics in the beginning all the way up to, hey, what are we looking at nowadays looking through Moxy? All right, then another one that I've been keeping an eye on, KNDI. I thought this thing was going to be a pretty good mover, but I also don't like to trade earnings, and this is why. This is just yet another example of why I don't trade earnings. And you can see it's gotten a little bit smashed. Now, that's not to say that it's over and done with and that will never come back, but it is to say now is not the time. So we're going to have to keep waiting for something like this one. Another interesting one is Solo. And it's actually doing a pretty good job holding up. I think earnings just came out today. Yesterday after the market. This one's looking like it's holding up. It's looking pretty good. Now, it's a funny little company, three-wheel car up in Canada, but hey, this whole electric car space is really starting to gain some attention. The daily chart looks pretty good. The hourly chart has just bounced off of the hourly 50. Now, I do want to figure out what price is going to do with the 15-minute time frame. Once I can get that figured out, then there might be a trade through here. And then some of the other ones, as far as, say, the cannabis space, we can talk about some of the big players. How about ACB? Tyler, what do you talk about? Picture traders. Not quite getting what you're saying there. So ACB, huge move. Not really because of earnings, more about states continuing their legalization of cannabis with this last election cycle. Big move. Hey, if you can catch something like that, great. What I can show you here is price bounce off of the hourly 50 with the Moxy indicator above 0. That's a good trade. And even if you missed that exact one right here, price over the 15-minute 50, the Moxy indicator looks amazing. And there you go. That then took off and did just super well because of the new states getting legalized. Now, since then, you look at this and say, man, this thing got totally overbought. I mean, it just went vertical on 2 days. It was like over 100% move. So far outside of third ATR, very far off of the hourly 50. It was no surprise that it came all the way back down. So that's why I always say there's always another train coming. You don't have to worry about missing the first move. There's almost always something else that will happen, and this is exactly that example. So right now we have a potential trampoline move. So if you're a Moxy subscriber, you know what that means. If you're not, that means price is below the 50, but the Moxy indicator is above 0. And that is one of my best setups. The trampoline move is one of my best and strongest setups, but we have to wait for it to actually confirm. So that's kind of what I'm looking for and waiting for. Overall, the daily chart looks like it's starting to do something. 8 is over the 21, price is over the daily 50. We've got a lot of things that are starting to come together for cannabis and ACB, but we have to wait for the pullback to finish. Some other names, we got Cron, same kind of deal, jumped up huge, waiting for it to finish its pullback. And that pullback right here is back to the hourly 50. Now, is the hourly 50 going to hold? We don't quite know yet. I'm inclined to think so, but we could also get price dipping just below the hourly 50 for a trampoline move. So I'm going to hang on to this one just a little bit, but I think we should be looking into Cannabis. CGC, I think this one was a little bit messier. Yeah, okay, maybe not too messy. It was a little bit messy going into this, and it hasn't exactly come back to its hourly 50. It's still got a little bit of room, and you can see we're underneath the 15-minute 50, so that's why I think that these things just need a little bit more time until they're ready to go. I also had a mentor of mine tell me, look, they travel in packs and they bring their friends. So if Cannabis is going to get going, they're all going to get going, which also means that if the if Tilray is going to go, well, then CGC and Cron are also going to get going. If ACB is going to go, well, then CGC and InBev and some of the other cannabis names are also going to get going. So we just need to kind of wait for that, and then they should all start moving together. Some will move better than others, but they should all get going. GRWG. We got this one, and what was holding me off on this one was earnings. Let's see, the earnings coming up on, well, unspecified. I guess that should be today. I think I need to look into that specifically and see if that is going to. I just don't like to trade earnings. We never know what happens for earnings, but I want to wait until after earnings. I want to avoid that. Overall, right now we are in a potential trampoline move. Price below the 50, the Moxy indicator above 0. That's, as I said, one of my best setups. We just need to make sure it actually works and confirms. And the daily chart looks pretty good here. You know, the price 8 over the 21, price on the 21, and you can see price kind of coming back into previous support. So, yeah, I think that the cannabis sector is looking interesting. Let's see, Webcoin, RVLV. So trying to decide if you hold it through earnings reports. Well, when it comes to earnings, I really don't have anything to say because anything can happen. You know, like I know people have made fun of Trump where he signs one of those I don't know, executive orders and turns it around. Somebody wrote in, "My tweets are no match for your technical analysis." That's how I feel when it comes to earnings. My technical analysis is no match for earnings. Anything can happen no matter what my chart says, and so that's why I don't trade earnings, because it just takes the edge that I have to read charts out of my hands. So I really don't have much to say. Like, this could continue moving up, it could gap down, it could just go sideways, and we just don't know because it's a completely binary event with the earnings. So I personally have never really felt like I missed out by skipping earnings. I can almost always find another entry after earnings. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then let's see, plug. Okay, yeah, past earnings. It does look good. Let me caution you that, Dave, I think that this is a little overbought for right now. So if you're in it, great. If you're not in it, I'd have to say you got to wait a little bit, because just look at the past. Do you see here, price got outside of the third ATR? Where are we at? Outside of third ATR. What did it do when it got outside of third ATR? It pulled back. Now, in this case, you can see that we got too far away from the hourly 50 and it pulled back. Now, this one went all the way underneath the hourly 50 and went pretty far down. Now, we may not do that the same, but we are pretty extended and we're pretty far away from the hourly 50. So personally, not a good entry location here. Does this thing look good? Yeah, of course it looks good, but we got to wait for a better entry, something like that. And then Marlis, let's see, ZI, yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. Let's see, has it held up? So far, so good. It's looking pretty decent. I'd like to see where it continues to go by the end of the day, but if it keeps doing what it's doing right now, I'd be happy with it. What I'm looking at here is a trampoline move on the daily chart, meaning price is below the 50, but the Moxy indicator is above 0. Remember that when it works, the trampoline move is my best setup. It's the most energetic. I love what it does, but we have to make sure that it holds and confirms. The other thing I'm seeing is we're past earnings, so that's good. I waited till after earnings, and then you can see here's your double bottom. There's your positive divergence with the Moxy indicator, and what I want to see is price hold the hourly 50 and hold the 15-minute 50. And if it can do that, then it's looking decent. Let's see. So, Carmela, to enter a trade, do you look at the daily Moxy, then the hourly, then the 15? And what order you check, then the charts? Yeah, I'd say I pretty much go from largest to smallest because I want to know the context. It's kind of like you're not going to go look at a microscope and then zoom out to realize that you're looking at something. Like how would you feel about if you went up to something and you said, I'm going to examine what this object is, but I'm going to start with a microscope, and all you can see are the molecules or maybe the hairs or the scales, and then you keep zooming out, zooming out, and zooming out, and you realize you're looking at a mouse. You want to first start out realizing that you're looking at a mouse versus a snake, and then you can use a magnifying glass, and then you can use a microscope. So I think that's the best way that I can explain it. All right. Let me know if there are any kind of other particular names that you guys are looking at. We got about 5 minutes that we can keep going with this. In the meantime, just want to remind you guys all, if you're interested in who I am, what I'm talking about, how I trade, all that kind of stuff, come over here to profitpilot.com, click on services. And then what I did talk about at the beginning of this session was this latest newsletter that I put out about Not My Trade, because I know that there were a lot of things that were moving quite a bit than the last week because of the election and because of the vaccine news. Fine, it didn't quite set up the way that I wanted it to set up for me. That's okay. There is always another trade coming, and there's always another something that you can take, and there's almost always a second entry. So just because something moves doesn't mean we have to catch it. You got to think about it. And I think I said it right. There are thousands right here. There are thousands of tickers out there, and I can only trade about 10 at a time, which means I'm probably going to be missing about 99% of any moves that happen out there. And I think us as traders, we just need to know and understand that. All right, Chewy, I don't think that there was anything quite. Okay, it's coming back a little bit. What I'd like to say is on the daily chart overall, I'd like to say that this should be kind of a nice flagging support area. But Chewy and kind of the COVID names, quote unquote COVID names, meaning things that do well during the COVID time because of mail order. If there's a vaccine, maybe this changes. It's kind of funny to think that this got hammered like that, but I do look at this as there's a potential trampoline move on the daily chart, but I don't quite see an entry on the hourly. It has not held the hourly 50 at all, anywhere. So I just don't have that yet. I don't quite see anything. It hasn't engaged with the 15-minute time frame, hasn't engaged with the hourly time frame. So big picture, okay, but I can't confirm it yet. And then DKNG, that has earnings coming up too, so I can't really say anything until after earnings. It has clearly finally stopped going down and reversed, and what I'd like to see is I'm curious to see if price actually holds the hourly 50 with the Moxy indicator above zero, and if it can hold the 15-minute 200. If it can do that, then great, but the next step is we have to watch out for the hourly 200 and earnings. So I can only say what I'm looking for up into earnings, and then I'm going to have to wait till after earnings. So let's circle back. What is that? Maybe next week, because that's the 13th. Yeah, that's just in a couple days. So let's take a look at this after earnings, and then we can assess it. Yeah, Fitch was another one that I was, oh man, I tell you, this one was a tough one. Going into the election, I just didn't want to be holding anything, so we were trading it right in through here, and it was giving us a hard time, up, down, up, down, up, down. It did eventually work, came out of the blue. I think it got upgraded, and then this all happened during the election. So, I was totally all over it right there. And then just when it wanted to go, it was the election, and I missed it. So at this point, just gotta wait, let this thing come back down. It's really, really extended. We have earnings coming up, and I just gotta wait. So maybe the next time around this thing comes, then we can catch it. And then space, yeah, that's another one that I'm interested in. Nice move today. I wasn't expecting that. I would have preferred today to actually be a bit of a pullback. I was thinking maybe that price was going to come down today. I would have liked to have seen that and actually test the hourly 50 one more time. So again, because I was on traveling and then the elections, I wasn't able to grab it anywhere through here. But after earnings, you can see it did bounce off the 15-minute 50, and it continues to bounce off the 15-minute 50, so that's been a really good trade. Same thing, it wasn't my trade yet. I was on the road. There will be another opportunity. There's always another opportunity. So for something like this, I am not in it. I'd like to be in it at some point, but I got to wait for my opportunity, and probably that opportunity is going to be whenever whenever price and the hourly 50 start to meet up. All right, guys. Well, that is pretty much my time. If you guys are interested in learning more and kind of figuring out more and actually, joining me with the trades that I'll be taking, then, come over to the Moxy Alert Surface. The Facebook, YouTube stuff here is basically kind of give you a good market overview, give you a little preview as into who I am, what I do, how I trade, and show you a little bit of a preview as to what you can expect when you come into the Moxy Alert Services. So thanks again for everybody who's tuning in. We got quite the good crowd here. I do appreciate that. And we'll see you again next week, and we'll figure out if anything's a little bit clearer next week with the markets actually getting into gear. All right, everyone. Thanks again. Talk to you later.